Hello everybody, my name is Benny and I'm the Fool's Apprentice. So today we're going to go over lesson number 7 from Lisa's Papez's Tarot on Training Wheels. It's free for everybody. Just go to YouTube, look up Lisa Papez Tarot on Training Wheels and it'll pop up. So far, I've been enjoying the lessons as they've come. It's taken me much longer than I expected it to. Frankly, way too long. So I'm really trying to rev up the lessons and trying to do a couple a week now. So today we're going to be going over the cups, ace through 10. As I've mentioned before, she has one complete lessons for the court cards, which I'm actually quite excited to get to see how she does that. I'm wondering if we're going to do all the pages and then all the knights and so on and so forth, or we're going to go by suit, page, knight, queen, king of cups, and so forth and so on. So, but I got to stay focused. I got to stay here now, and right here, right now, it's all about the cups. So allow me to flip the camera over, and we'll get started. Okay, I'm back. So, again, this is just as normal. Lisa did a great job. I don't know how many times I'm going to say that, but I suspect that I'll say it after each and every lesson. In this particular series of cards, I did find there were a couple that I really struggled with. And particularly one, I actually left the word out like I did in the first lesson because I just found that I wasn't convinced with what she suggested and what typically people tend to think. And then there was another one that kind of gave me some pause, but we'll discuss it when we get there. So, is there a shadow? I feel like there's a shadow. What's going on? Oh, yes, there it is. All right. Off to the side, I have my notes. And so I'm trying to get my notes without having a shadow. See, this is a little bar. Darn it. It's going to make my life miserable. Okay, maybe we can do that. Okay. I'm an old man, so I need reading glasses, and so my notes have to be up high so I could see them. All right, so the Ace of Cups. She really talked about how the cup is overflowing, which you can see in both the Rider White deck, Neo Rider Edition, and the Druid Craft Tarot, which I still don't have memorized. By the way, I had to pick up my box again. One day I'll get it. And she really talks about how the cup is overflowing, and here you can see very clear that that is overflowing. So there's an abundance of something here that's coming through, and in this deck right here, I mean, it's so much overflowing that it has water creating streams, and it's just water everywhere. But she really talks about, your blessings, that you have a lot to be grateful for. There's a lot of blessings in your life, in every aspect of your life. And so I thought that was pretty, straightforward. So that wasn't challenging at all for me to conceive. So interesting here is, with a lot of my books and stuff, partnership came up a lot. And some people discuss the difference between this kind of partnership and the Lover's card, which I thought was really interesting, but made a lot of sense. So my understanding with my recollection of what I've been reading is that the Lover's card really is about this commitment that you make. And we'll just keep it with relationships, to your partner, your life partner, your wife, your husband. And it's a long-term commitment, one that is very deep and profound, one that will last, hopefully, a lifetime. Here in this kind of partnership, it's something that's new and fresh and exciting. Not that the Lovers cannot. It's just here, it's about a new blossoming relationship of two people who have equal footing, two people who, have the same goals and interests and passion for one another. So I thought that was that was really nice to hear and read the differences between the Lover cards and the Two of Cups. Now, Three of Cups, it's about celebration. I mean, that's pretty easy. You know, every deck that I see, pretty much there is some kind of party going on. People are expressing joy. People are having fun, and this one compared to the two seems more. And I read this, so it's not like my own thought, but it does seem like there's a lot more related to friendships. Which makes sense to me because you have three women here celebrating and you have three men here celebrating. So it feels like it's not the kind of intimate relationship that we had in the Lovers or the Two. So very easy concept for me to get through. And she went through these pretty quickly. Now, this is a card where I really struggled. So Lisa really talks about the tradition of this card, which is like boredom and apathy. And the books that I read pretty much said the same thing. But one book, and I'll get to that in a second. But Lisa really talked about how do we get bored? Well, it's because we're comfortable. And so she used the word comfort for this. And in this card, you see somebody who's just laying there, they are comfortable. There's nothing stressful going on. And so they're comfortable in the life that they had. But in that comfort can lead to boredom. Basically because you don't want to rock the boat. You don't want to really, go outside of what you're used to living, your daily practice, your daily living, because you're comfortable in it. But after quite some time with no challenges to face, no goals to achieve, you can get bored. And so I clearly understand how comfort came to her as the word. But I'm kind of struggling with both, to be honest. So when I look at the Rider-Waite-Smith guy sitting under this tree, I just think of the Buddha, who's sitting under the Bodhi tree, just sitting there in contemplation. And he's not bored. This guy doesn't look bored. There's everything that he needs is there, but something's missing. There's something more. So it feels like this person's sitting and there's just this long pause until something comes up. Some signal, some answer, some idea, some passion. Maybe it's that there's no passion, nothing to drive him, nothing to motivate him. I don't know. So I don't have a word for this card. I do have the basic understanding of boredom and apathy and comfort. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this card blank for myself for right now and see what happens with time. As I study the cards, I will also look at videos, which I did as well on YouTube. And still nothing is coming to strike me. And I have been really listening to the cards and what they mean to me based on my readings and what Lisa suggests. And I'm just going with her suggestion of find something that fits for you. And right now, nothing does. So it's going to stay blank. This one. I didn't know that this card meant grief. But as soon as she said the word, I was like, oh yeah, I definitely see grief in this. There is definitely a sense of loss. The energy in this card is very dark. There's a very heavy mood that I see in both of these sides. For both of these men, the focal point is what has spilled out of the cups and what is no longer there, no longer retrievable. But I do sense that there is a loss of focus in this because we have two cups behind them that are upright and what I would assume has what he or she needs to move forward. So it's really about maybe changing a shift in perspective, not necessarily, letting grief go because it's not a possibility. Grief is a process, but really being reminded as well that there are things to live for, things to motivate you to move forward and recover from your grief. There is a great sense of loss here, but not all is lost. Hence the 2 cups behind these gentlemen. So I think this is a card that I will definitely be able. Oh, and I want to say, be able to remember, is that for me, grief does not necessarily represent the loss of life at all. I have been fortunate in my profession to have actually worked with grief with people, and I see grief manifest itself in so many different ways, which I have found very surprising. Grief can come from the loss of a job, a loss of a relationship, the loss of an heirloom, like a necklace that was given from a grandmother to a mother to a granddaughter. Grief could be, it could actually be the ending of something, like even a subtle thing, like having a great family reunion and then everybody having to fly home to different states and cities and having that sense of loss from the family reunion and celebration ending. Even that can be a form of grief. Maybe not as profound as death, but still a loss. And this card was interesting. She uses the word reflection, and with this card, with the Druidcraft Tarot, I see that very clearly. This person is really just looking at how they got here, how blessed they are. They could even be looking at what they were like when they were young, like remembering through these children what their childhood was like. The Rider Waite Smith, I don't get it as much, but I get the concept that, it's this childlike memories, these things that you look back upon, the innocence of life during that time, and reflecting back to those times and maybe utilizing what it was like for you as a child and using that energy in your present life. Like if you find yourself, bored, complacent, and this card gets drawn and it's really calling you to look back at the things that you used to enjoy to do and trying to bring those into your present moment and seeing what works for you now. So this was another one that I had to think about a little bit. She used the word indecision. And I wrote it down because it actually does work. But I feel like there's a little bit more going on for me. Like there is right here, this card I didn't know what this card meant until this lesson. But now I get that you have all these choices, and all these choices are great choices. There is no wrong in picking which any of these you would decide to take upon yourself. But the thing is that they all have great outcomes. So which one do you take? There's just so many choices. And so this card shows me how burdensome that could feel. Like the fear of making the wrong decision, or thinking that you're going to make the wrong decision, which leads to indecisiveness, which you're kind of stuck in the road, and you're stuck not being able to make a decision. And so really this card, with all the readings and everything, really talks about with all the decisions you got made, with all the choices you have available to you, you need to make a decision. Because if you don't, you will sit there and you will contemplate and you will go into fantasy land. And next thing you know, you're thinking about the first cup and what it can offer you. And then you can spend days and hours thinking about that. And then you remember, oh, but I got this choice. And next thing you know, you're off to the races with that one. And the same with each and every cup. Before you know it, those choices are no longer available to you. So this for me is about making sure that you make a quick decision so you don't end up in a place of indecisiveness. So when this card would come up, it's really telling me that, hey, dude, like, lucky you got all these things you can choose from. Pick one quickly. So that's how I see this particular card as of now. We'll see what it's like in a year. Now, when it comes to the Eight of Cups, this is another one that I sit and think about for a little bit. So, from what I understanding is that all those choices you had in the seven, really, none of them really gave you what you really needed, or it gave you what you needed up to a certain point, but then it no longer really served its purpose. And so therefore you have all these cups, all these things available to you, but none of them will take you to a higher place of where you want to be from where you're at. They're not capable of doing so. So it has come a point in your life where it's time to walk away. And Lisa uses the word departure, which is to leave. I'm contemplating maybe using to remove oneself from this. It just feels more conscious for me. To leave doesn't feel as powerful as to remove oneself from these cups. But I'm going to keep departure because I'm not 100% sold on removal. But I do feel confident that departure will work for me. So that's why I wrote departure. But removal is a hot second. So it's something that's going to be on my mind. And I think as I go through these cards, we'll see what word comes up for me more times than not. So now the 9 and the 10, I think, have subtle but profound differences. So she likes the word contentment for this particular cup, which leads to, peace and calm, and you're just grateful, and you're in this moment with all these cups that, you're just in a really, really good place. And you recognize that you are a blessed person. And if this is the best you got, you're okay with it. And so when this card comes up, it's just really about recognizing how blessed you are with what you have. It doesn't necessarily, for me, mean that you have everything you want, but you have everything you need. And so therefore you're content, which is, I think, just a little different than the 10 of Cups, which she uses the word fulfillment. You are fulfilled. You have everything you've ever wanted. You have everything you've ever needed. And the rainbow, she talked a little bit about the rainbow. But for me, these moments, I think, are rare. I don't think they happen very often. And when they do, it's a moment to just really absorb and appreciate. And like rainbows, we don't see rainbows on a daily or even weekly basis. Rainbows don't happen often. They happen enough that when we see them, we'll pause and look and realize how beautiful they are, as I would if I had everything I wanted and needed. But where do I go from here? So I think that's the big question. When this comes in, it's like really saying, enjoy the moment, but now you have to find bigger dreams. You need to find other goals, because really you can't stay in this moment. It's a moment to be in awe of, but it really is a card that signifies that in a moment of time, you have reached self-actualization. But like anything else, it will pass. And you will have to try another journey to see where that leads you. So this over, let me flip the camera over 1 second. Okay, I'm back. So I really like this. This lesson seemed really calm. It's a cup of emotions, and I'm describing it in an emotional way. It was a very calm, unstressful lesson for me. Even when I struggled with a couple of cards, I didn't feel frustrated or angry. What I felt was a sense of really wanting to understand and contemplate and absorb. And so this really was by far, I think, the easiest lesson I've had up to this point. I learned some really interesting things. Um, I'm looking to the side because of my notes. Excuse me. Um, and what I can say is that I also think this will probably be the most difficult of cards to remember overall because I didn't feel really pushed. In fact, when I do my lessons, I'll pause in between each card, then I'll go through my books to see what the books say. And especially with number 4, where she used comfort, and a lot of the books talked about apathy and boredom. And so being able to see both really just had me sitting still for a bit. But I suspect that it's hard to explain. Even though I feel that these will probably be the most difficult to learn, I think these will probably be the most profound cards for me as I do readings, and I do readings for myself. There's something very calming about this suit, but I wonder if it's surface level and underneath the waters, there's a lot more to be discovered. But one more suit, and then we're off to the court card. So we'll see how it goes. Thank you very much for joining me. Have a nice day, and I'm the Fool's Apprentice.